Today I'm going to be talking about the opportunity gap. So the student achievement gap has been an acknowledged problem since the early 1900s, and most educators would agree that it's a huge problem within schools even today. So why, after almost more than 100 years of awareness, does this issue continue to plague schools across America? Racism and income status are huge factors in the opportunity gap. I will be thoroughly examining and comparing two perspectives as well as addressing the roles of stereotypes and parent involvement that play into a student's success. Several solutions supported by strong evidence of their benefits will be given to support the claim that the road to an equal education in America starts in schools, specifically with a reform in the school school funding system. A change in the way that we teach and the teacher expectations within schools, and providing more opportunities and after school programs for students of low income or minorities. So, what is the opportunity gap? So, it's also known as the student achievement gap, and it refers to the difference in academic achievement between minority and low-income students compared to their white, high-income peers. In a study done by Prosperity Now and Institute for Policy Studies, they compare the median household income of Black and Latino ethnicities. The researchers note that white households in middle-income quintile own nearly 8 times as much wealth as middle-income Black earners and 10 times as much as middle-income Latino earners. This proves that the majority of low-income students are either Black or Latino. Therefore, when analyzing this problem, it's important to remember that the two go hand in hand. These factors have led to controversial opinions on how the student achievement gap can be solved. In this graph, you can see too that 69% of Black students are receiving less than a high school education compared to 46% of white students. And then we have a 48, which isn't as high, but it's still not ideal. I've decided to address this to Denise L. Carter, who is the acting assistant secretary in the Office of Finance and Operations at the Department of Education. She is over all the financial stuff, and I think the first step that should be taken to help try to close the gap is to change our school funding system to be more equitable. So, equitability is super important because right now property tax is the major contributor in public education. This has created a huge problem in providing equal education to all students. Saba Bierda discusses this in her article, Funding Education Equitability. She explains that schools have been funded by the property tax of surrounding neighborhoods. This means that schools with a higher percent of low-income students are receiving less funding than those with a lower percent of low-income students. Bierda gives evidence that the low-funded schools also tend to have less experienced teachers, which imply that they are receiving a worse education in comparison to wealthier areas. I have a little graph right here. Another researcher, Michelle Chen, says that underfunding has caused massive workload on teachers, which has led to higher turnover rates in low-funded schools. Therefore, keeping these students cycling through overburdened schools, overworked teachers, and curricular inadequate for meeting basic state standards. So the school funding issue keeps poverty children trapped within the limitations set by the quality of education they receive. If socioeconomic factors aren't already limiting these students, insufficient funding makes the goal of closing this gap even further from reach. So these students who need more attention and more support and more resources are getting a worse education and having to deal with teacher turnover, which has been proven to worsen the quality of the education they receive. Okay, after school activities. After-school activities have shown huge benefits, especially to students that are low income or minority. However, most of these programs are not affordable. According to Lindsay Hutton, more than 14 million students leave school every afternoon and have nowhere to go since they do not have access to affordable after-school opportunities. These activities make students feel like they belong somewhere and motivate them to be involved in school. Another study done by Carl E. Schressler proves that involvement in these after-school programs results in an increase in student achievement. So making these programs available to low-income and minority students would help reduce the achievement gap by providing them with social and academic resources that they otherwise would not be able to have. It also reduces crime and welfare costs. These are just some other benefits of after-school programs for kids, increasing earning potential and stuff. Okay. The next way schools can help close the achievement gap is by changing their expectations or their teaching methods. So, as previously, an educator's opinion on the abilities of these students can limit their academic success. So, a guy named Benjamin Alcott did a study on the importance of a teacher's expectations and how it reflects on their success. So, he did a study that tracked 4,300 adolescents in England for 7 years and found that the effect of teacher encouragement on students varied considerably depending on background, with the greatest difference seen in students of lower levels of parent education. Alcott states that among those who experienced strong teacher encouragement, nearly 12% were more likely to enroll in a post-secondary education. Another article says that students must believe that they can learn and know how to deal with failures and learn from those experiences. Words of affirmation and encouragement have been proven to enhance a student's confidence in their ability and therefore help them develop a commitment to learning. So we can change, or teachers can start changing and helping the achievement gap by being more encouraging in schools and trying to get rid of those expectations or stereotypes that they may possess unconsciously or consciously. So there are other solutions that have been suggested to this problem. So Carol J. Carter from HuffPost says that most poverty students struggle in school because of lack of exposure to books, language barriers, unstable home environments, and lack of role models in the home. She says that 89% of low-income first-generation students leave college without a degree due to family, culture, or absence of support. This has led many people to say that since this problem originates in the home, that's where the change needs to occur. There's also the idea that it is all a racism problem. And Ibram X. Kendi argues that it's the root cause of the achievement gap. He states that the issue has been opening the door to racist ideas, and he's not alone in his belief. In another report, D. Gunderson discusses how racism can become an unconscious bias among teachers, and they tend to stereotype and have different expectations for those children. So David Cantor writes about this as well. He says that he found that teachers were giving minority and poverty students easier working class in order to cover up disparities. Approximately 40% of classrooms with students of color were receiving below grade level assignments compared to a 12% in white majority classrooms. The solution that they bring to the table is that parents need to be more involved. So that's what the Nellie May Education Foundation is saying, that parent involvement boosts student achievement, and there's definitely evidence that supports their claim. They suggest that parents start joining the PTA and helping kids with their homework and reading with them more. to help boost support their education. However, most low-income students are from homes with two working parents, so that's not really an option. In conclusion, the opportunity gap is obviously a very complex problem. There are hundreds of factors that play a role in student achievement. Though the issue is daunting, educators throughout the country or even the world can help these students obtain academic success by changing the way they educate. A complete reform of the school funding system to make it more equitable is necessary to give students across America equal opportunities. Belief in any and every student's ability will help them succeed and bridge the gap that has been created by expectations. The journey to creating a country that is truly founded upon the American dream starts in the classroom. And here are my references.